Age-related muscle loss, medically termed sarcopenia, is one of the most significant yet misunderstood health challenges affecting adults over the age of 60. For decades, muscle weakness in older age was considered an unavoidable consequence of aging. However, modern medical research has clearly demonstrated that sarcopenia is not simply caused by growing older, but rather by modifiable factors, chief among them being nutrition quality, protein intake, and lifestyle habits. While it is true that muscle mass begins to decline gradually after the age of 40, the rapid and function-limiting muscle loss commonly seen in seniors is largely preventable. Unfortunately, many older adults rely on traditional or outdated nutritional practices, such as bone broth, believing these are sufficient to protect muscle health. From a clinical standpoint, this belief is not supported by evidence. Bone broth, while comforting and culturally popular, contains very small amounts of complete protein and lacks sufficient levels of essential amino acids required for muscle repair and growth. Muscle tissue is built and maintained through a process called muscle protein synthesis, which depends heavily on the availability of essential amino acids, particularly leucine. Leucine acts as a biological on switch that activates muscle-building pathways in the body. Without adequate leucine intake, the muscle cells do not receive a strong enough signal to repair or regenerate, regardless of total calorie intake. Bone broth typically provides only 2 to 5 grams of protein per serving and minimal leucine, which is far below the threshold needed to stimulate muscle protein synthesis in older adults. As people age, the body develops a condition known as anabolic resistance. This means that muscle tissue becomes less responsive to protein intake than it was in younger years. In practical terms, a 30-year-old may stimulate muscle growth with a small amount of protein, whereas a 65-year-old requires a larger and higher quality protein dose to achieve the same effect. This is a normal physiological change, but it has serious consequences when dietary protein intake is insufficient. Many seniors unknowingly consume protein amounts that are adequate for younger adults, but inadequate for their aging physiology. This mismatch accelerates muscle wasting, weakness, fatigue, and loss of independence. Clinical studies consistently show that older adults benefit from consuming approximately 25 to 35 grams of high-quality protein per meal, rather than concentrating most of their protein intake at dinner or relying on low-protein foods. High-quality proteins are those that contain all essential amino acids in sufficient proportions. Examples include eggs, fish, poultry, dairy products such as Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, lean meats, soy-based foods, and well-prepared legumes. These foods provide not only sufficient total protein, but also adequate leucine content to overcome anabolic resistance. In contrast, protein-poor traditions, even when nutritionally comforting, do not meet the physiological requirements of aging muscle. Another important factor is protein distribution throughout the day. Many older adults consume minimal protein at breakfast and lunch, followed by a moderate intake at dinner. From a medical perspective, this pattern is inefficient for muscle preservation. Muscle protein synthesis is a meal-triggered process, meaning that each meal rich in protein acts as a stimulus for muscle repair. When protein intake is unevenly distributed, the body misses multiple opportunities to stimulate muscle maintenance. Research indicates that evenly spreading protein intake across meals leads to better muscle mass retention, improved strength, and enhanced physical performance in seniors. Beyond muscle strength, the consequences of sarcopenia extend to nearly every major health outcome in older adults. Reduced muscle mass is strongly associated with increased fall risk, fractures, prolonged hospital stays, slower recovery from illness, and higher mortality rates. Muscle tissue plays a critical role in metabolic health. It is a major site for glucose disposal, meaning that loss of muscle contributes directly to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Additionally, muscle produces anti-inflammatory molecules that help regulate immune function. When muscle mass declines, chronic inflammation tends to increase, accelerating aging-related diseases. From a clinical nutrition standpoint, replacing low-protein habits with protein-dense, easily digestible foods is one of the most effective interventions available for aging populations. Many seniors face barriers, such as reduced appetite, dental issues, or digestive discomfort. For this reason, soft, nutrient-dense protein sources such as eggs, yogurt, smoothies, lentils, and well-cooked fish are particularly beneficial for older adults. These foods deliver high biological value protein without excessive chewing or digestive strain, making them ideal for older adults. It is also important to address common misconceptions regarding protein intake and kidney health. In individuals with normal or mildly reduced kidney function, increased protein intake within recommended clinical ranges does not cause kidney damage. In fact, major medical organizations now recommend higher protein intake for older adults precisely because of the risks associated with muscle loss. Only individuals with advanced chronic kidney disease require protein restriction, and even in those cases, dietary planning should be medically supervised rather than avoided altogether. In summary, sarcopenia is not an unavoidable fate of aging, but a largely preventable condition driven by insufficient intake of high-quality protein and poor dietary distribution. Bone broth and similar low-protein traditions may offer comfort, but do not meet the biological demands of aging muscle. Replacing these habits with evidence-based protein-rich foods consumed consistently and evenly throughout the day provides a powerful medical strategy to preserve strength, mobility, and independence. From a physician's perspective, prioritizing muscle health through proper nutrition is not optional. It is a cornerstone of preventative medicine and one of the most effective interventions to maintain quality of life after 60. Muscle health in older adults is far more than a matter of physical strength or appearance. It is a central determinant of metabolic health, mobility, disease resistance, and long-term independence. Skeletal muscle functions as a critical metabolic organ, not merely a mechanical system for movement. With advancing age, the gradual loss of muscle mass and strength directly alters how the body handles glucose, inflammation, and hormonal signaling. When sarcopenia develops, the consequences extend well beyond weakness, significantly increasing the risk of chronic disease, disability, and loss of autonomy. From a clinical perspective, preserving muscle mass is one of the most powerful preventative strategies available for aging populations. One of the most important roles of skeletal muscle is its involvement in glucose metabolism. Muscle tissue is responsible for the majority of glucose uptake after meals. As muscle mass declines, the body's ability to clear glucose from the bloodstream is impaired, leading to insulin resistance. This metabolic dysfunction is a major contributor to the development of type 2 diabetes in older adults. Even in individuals without diabetes, reduced muscle mass leads to unstable blood sugar levels, increased fatigue, and impaired energy utilization. Clinical studies consistently show that older adults with greater muscle mass have better glycemic control and lower rates of metabolic disease, independent of body weight. In addition to glucose regulation, muscle tissue plays a key role in controlling systemic inflammation. Healthy muscle releases myokines, beneficial signaling molecules that reduce chronic inflammation and support immune function. As muscle mass declines, these protective signals diminish, allowing low-grade inflammation to rise. Chronic inflammation accelerates aging-related diseases and contributes to cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, arthritis, and immune dysfunction. From a medical standpoint, sarcopenia is therefore not an isolated condition, but a driver of multiple age-related diseases. Mobility is another critical domain affected by muscle loss. Muscle strength determines walking speed, balance, stair climbing ability, and the capacity to recover from a stumble or loss of balance. Even small reductions in lower body muscle strength significantly increase the risk of falls, which are a leading cause of injury, hospitalization, and mortality in adults over 60.
falls often initiate a cascade of health decline, including fractures, prolonged immobility, muscle wasting, and loss of independence. Preserving muscle mass is therefore essential not only for movement, but for survival and quality of life. Adequate intake of high-quality protein is central to maintaining muscle mass in older adults. Protein provides the essential amino acids required for muscle repair and regeneration. Among these amino acids, leucine plays a particularly important role by activating the mTOR signaling pathway, which initiates muscle protein synthesis. Foods rich in leucine, such as eggs, dairy products, fish, poultry, and soy-based foods, are especially effective in stimulating muscle maintenance in older adults. Plant-based proteins can also contribute, but they often require larger portions or strategic combinations